Hello, welcome to On Point. I am Nancy Moreira. Many college graduates find it difficult to find a job within their field. The Labor Department says the unemployment rate for young Americans with a college degree increased to 12.4% in 2013. Some people say hands-on experience leads to a career-related job. With graduation approaching, students are in a frenzy with trying to land that post-grad job.
It's a little scary because I kind of don't know what I want to do yet. So trying to figure that out is still like an ongoing process. But I mean, it's not too bad. I mean, at least I know I'm going somewhere. So
unemployed since February, and I've been looking for a job since. There's a website, Snag a Job, so I just go there. Like I apply to Denny's, Red Robin, but I just realized that you should probably call within the week.
My major is mechanical engineering, and I don't think that I'm gonna find like problems with finding a job, as like my major is something that like most of the companies, most of the places in the US specifically want that kind of job.
It's mostly based on where you graduate. If you go to a good school and you have good grades, I bet you can get a job anywhere.
I'm not sure because the economy is not stable yet, and it's a question mark so far, but maybe there's a chance.
Since it's so impacted, I've had to take less classes, which has given me more time to take more internships and have jobs that create a bigger network circle, so I have more opportunities out there.
On Point's Braseda Holguin has more on the story.
Thank you, Nancy. And today with us we have Doug Marriott. He is a cooperative education director at Los Angeles Valley College, and Patricia Gaynor, the assistant director of the Career Center here at CSUN. So, a lot of college students are anxious about getting a job. Some are even wondering if the time and money that they put into it and got a degree was worth it. Is a college degree necessary to get a job? I can start with you, Doug.
As someone who works at a college, I believe it is. It's very helpful. There's great skills that come from just the process of going through the journey towards a degree. And I would also share with students that every year there's upwards of 5 million new jobs, and their goal is just to land one. So I would encourage them to keep optimistic.
Patricia, is your answer similar?
Yes, of course, working in the school, I believe in it. The situation is too, even though there's increases in jobs, there are more people going after each job. So this is something more that you have to put on your resume and such, and puts you higher up on the pile of resumes that they receive. Again, as we just heard from Ken, that it's good to have this kind of background because the journey is a large part of it as well.
So we understand that, yes, it is good to get a degree. What about going further and getting the graduate degree?
I think part of every job, when you start a job, you have to demonstrate that you can learn and adapt. And you gain those skills through your journey towards an undergraduate degree or a graduate degree. With the graduate degree, you'd have more specific skills to share in the workplace. But the act of knowing how to learn, process information, work with other people, these are all transferable skills that I think will help people in the workplace.
What about your grades? Do they also matter when finding a job?
Well,
you know, it really matters what field you're going to. The same would apply for getting a graduate degree. A lot of students are finishing up school, they've taken their time, and then they say, oh, now I'm going to do a graduate degree. And need to kind of stand back and think about, why do I want it? Is it something I really need? Is it something I really need right now? Degrees in education are never a waste, but sometimes we may use it as a way to kind of sway away from where we want to go right now, to get some extra thinking time or whatever it takes. I'm a firm believer that you want to get out there and see, is this really what I want, before I go and put how many more years into schooling. Now, when it comes to grades and such, especially if you're in the sciences and even engineering and all, grades will matter. And also then you probably will be thinking about a more immediate graduate degree. So they kind of tie in together. a lot of fields, it's all a matter of the chemistry, what their gut feeling when they meet you, what your skills and talents are and such. So it's really very individual to the areas of interest.
And Patricia, we often hear people say, I can't find a job, or saying they haven't found one. So it brings up the question of, are there more jobs than people? I mean, are there more people than jobs, or are there more jobs than people? I believe I said that right.
It came out right in the end. You know, we listen to all these statistics and everything else, and you listen to this one, it's different, and that one, it's different, and you really have to kind of take it all with a grain of salt. I don't think there's a real specific to how many jobs, how many are unemployed, because so much gets lost in the cracks and the paperwork and everything else. Whether there are more jobs than people, probably not, but what we are finding is there are people that just don't have the skills for the jobs. And that's where the big concern has to be.
Doug, would you like to add anything?
Sure. I think to encourage new graduates, I would share that there are many jobs that aren't advertised. There's many jobs that you hear about from friends, from doing informational interviews. If you target people, meet with them, ask them specific questions, start to network, often people still refer people. Even in an age of social media where you might be networking online, people remember human interactions. And so if students are out doing informational interviews, doing their research, customizing their resume for potential jobs, often through that activity they might find a job that isn't advertised because they think of somebody, they refer them to someone else.
Thank you. Patricia, you work at the Career Center here at CSUN. What majors do you feel are doing well in the job market?
Well, we're hearing this over and over again with the aging population and such. Healthcare is rising more and more to the top. Engineering has again come up to the top. Any kind of technical background is going to be more and more needed. It's not going to go away. Security, anything in security is becoming bigger and bigger. It seems in the future, when look what's going on right now, besides personal security, technical, all the kinds of things that are going on with different countries sabotaging and stealing from each other, people doing that to each other. I think that's very much the area of the future, but it all connects to technical in the end. So whether it's public relations or it's working in an office of some kind, you still need to keep those skills up, and you still need to be aware of what's going on and what's changing.
Would you like to add anything, Doug?
Yeah, I would agree with what Patricia said, all the industries she cited. I would also share, like in my position, I get to go out and meet many employers where students are doing work experience and internships, and we work with employers who are sometimes seeking to hire large groups. And I've heard from many employers that they do like English majors and some with liberal arts backgrounds, similar to an English major, because of the communication skills that come from a major like that, where people can process information and share it with somebody else. So although the industries she cited are all correct, I would also not discount other majors. I think it's a matter of the applicant or candidate aligning their transferable skill to the job that they want.
Thank you.
Well, in line with what you're saying too, the biggest comment, shall we say, I don't want to say complaint, of employers has been a lack in what we used to call the soft skills or emotional intelligence, which is people having trouble communicating. So that would be a reason why these majors will always be surviving. Also, sales, anything, just about any kind of job you have, its bottom line is it's sales. So no matter what you're doing, it's sales. People don't like to think that. They think that they're selling socks at a department store. That's not what sales is. And for that reason, athletes, veterans, people that come from majors and backgrounds where they're very used to having that team kind of a spirit and such are always in demand.
My next question is, if you have the proper qualifications, could you lose the job opportunity because of your age?
Are you saying is there such a thing as ageism?
Yes.
Yes.
Would
There
you
always has been, and it's gotten
that
worse.
goes in both directions as well.
Yeah. If you're too young and too green, but you stand a chance, or you're going to get a little older, so you're going to make up for that. But especially this country, that's always been a situation, and more so because of the fact that there are so many going after these jobs that when they do come up. And
Would you like to add anything, Doug?
Yeah, I would hope that if you demonstrate the skills that she mentioned, I'm really glad that Patricia mentioned soft skills, because I hear that from employers all the time. And although those questions aren't asked specifically in an interview, if you can give specific examples of those type of skills that you have in terms of leadership, working with other people, resolving conflict, advancing, setting goals, these things that might not be specific or technical to the actual job interview, you could demonstrate that you can handle the job. And when that's demonstrated, then age shouldn't be an issue. If you can demonstrate that you can do it and perform, and then when you start, if you have the emotional intelligence to adapt and make the 90-day period to understand the culture of a company, then age shouldn't be a factor. But I would agree that it obviously is.
Going off that, Doug, can someone ever be overqualified for a position and in result that affect their chance of getting the job?
I think it does. I think often when somebody is presenting themselves to an employer, if they're overqualified, what's going through the employer's mind is that this might be something temporary while they're looking for another position. And that happens in many industries. So the candidate then would have to demonstrate that their experience is transferable and that their intention is to share their skills and qualities with the company rather than what it might be perceived as a stopping off point on a career ladder.
Patricia, would you like to add anything?
Yes. Backing up a minute for the ages, that's another side of it as well when you ask about overqualified. Somebody may be in a field for so long that they've also outpriced themselves. And that's another reason for wanting to look for someone younger who perhaps won't be nearly as qualified for the position, and because of all the different expenses that companies have at this time, or employers, they need to also be cautious of who they're hiring, at what salaries, and then there's the benefits that could step in. So when you ask if the overqualified can keep them from getting a job, there's different facets to that as well. But I do agree a lot of times, unless it's a company that feels, you know what, this is who we are, we need to get this done, people come in and people come out, especially a lot of the technical fields. A lot of them want you, come on in, fix this, make this right, you want to leave, that's fine. So if you're okay with that as an employee, you can benefit by saying, well, I got this from that company as far as I picked up a new skill, I picked up this amount of hours doing this and that. So there's also not necessarily bad to that.
Okay, so now we're going to watch a clip and we're going to hear from a CSUN alum named Laura Gutierrez, who was a business finance major here at CSUN.
The internship that I did after high school was engineering. It didn't necessarily tie in, but at the moment that was my career path. I was trying to get into architecture, construction management, just the feel for all that engineering in itself. So it helped me because I realized that that's not what I wanted to do. And I realized it before I went into college. I started looking for other jobs, other office assistant jobs that were paying more. And I looked at the CSUN career site, and that's where the financial planner that I work for posted a job. And I interviewed, and I ended up getting it. But before interviewing with her, I interviewed at about 4 other places. I interviewed at Galpin, at an aerospace company, just for office assistant work, and the last at a dental office. But 3 of those I also found at the CSUN career website. So I think that that's a good place to go because companies, businesses around here know that there's a lot of students in need of jobs, and obviously we're educated and we're on our way to becoming professionals. Work experience is very key in this industry, and if you don't have that at all, you need to look for something, whether it's an internship, regardless of what they pay, you need to get in there because that's probably the only way that somebody will consider you. If you have no experience, it's very difficult for somebody to take a chance on you. So if it's an internship, you know, make sure you get it right after college, or a starting job in the industry that you want to, even if it's not the exact career that you're already looking for as a graduate.
After watching that, Patricia, how valuable are connections when looking for a job?
Very. They're valuable in every way, personal as well as when you're looking for a job. We always say that word that no one likes to hear, which is networking. But especially when you're getting ready to get out there, you want to be taking advantage of everything and anything, whatever CSUN has to offer, which is a tremendous amount from the Career Center on, with the different kinds of panels and workshops and such that we all offer. And all over the campus there are things like that. And it might be hearing someone speak that suddenly something goes, a light bulb goes off, or you introduce yourself and you find out that there's an internship or such. So you can't discount where you're going to be meeting people, especially if it's related to the way you want to go, what field you're heading and such.
Doug, how would a person discuss their strengths in a proper way when in an interview?
That's good. Often you hear the flip side of the question, tell me your greatest strength, and then what's your greatest weakness? And sometimes people use the same answer for both, which employers hear a lot, like I'm a perfectionist or I'm a hard worker. And a strategy that was shared with me that I share with our students is to talk about a trait that the student is continuing to improve on. So it could be, in the past I've had this challenge. The action I took was to take this course, to meet these people, to work on it. And now, although it was a challenge in the past, I'm continuing to improve on it. By communicating it that way, you're able to show that you have emotional intelligence, that you understand yourself, and you realize that there are all areas that we can work on and improve on. But I would encourage people to always put their best foot forward in the interview, to share their strengths, to share what they care about, to give specific examples. There's an acronym called SAR, which means Situation, Action, Result. And so often in an interview, it'll be, tell me about a challenge you had at work. It's helpful to say, this was the situation I had, this was the action I took, and this was the result that benefited the client, the company, the organization. I also share with people that you should never speak poorly about any former coworker in the past, because the assumption in the interviewer's head is that if you do that with one group or in one job situation, you're likely to do it in another.
Another question for you, Doug.
Sure.
What is the importance of attaching an image to your application?
Well, I mean, now I think 86% of employers Google applicants and can see, at least, you know, can see an image with it. So you need to be aware of what you look like online and Google yourself and see what comes up, and direct that. And so your LinkedIn profile should have the image that you want with it. I don't think it's problematic if it's professional and presents you in a positive way.
Patricia, do you have anything to add?
I agree with everything you said. I do apologize, I called you Ken earlier today. First of all, what Doug had said, when you're talking about your strengths and all, and anything that you're talking about, when you can give an example, is the best way to answer a question. Not some long-winded story, but we always say quantify things. That's like, I improved membership by 200%. So the same thing, that you had this situation, and I know that I'm very good at organization, and you show that example. So then that would be on that side. And I'm sorry, what was the other part of the question?
The question was, what is the importance of attaching an image to your application?
An image to your application, branding yourself, or what are we talking
because
about?
Because oftentimes now, when we are applying to jobs, you see the question, please attach an image of yourself.
Oh,
to that.
okay.
I want to know what the importance of that is. What is it used for?
Actually, especially if you're sending a hard copy resume, you should never. And if anyone's asking for that, they're actually breaking a law. Which is something for old timers like myself. I have a problem with all the social networking and such, because the first thing people do is put their image on there. I don't know if an employer would come right out and ask for that. I don't know if you've heard someone doing that. But the reason being, you always want to be careful. We know that people are basically all very good, but we can't be Pollyanna. You have to also be careful. And you don't want to give someone who might have some little bad guy in them or something, and they're against, whether it be a race, blue eyes, red hair, anything like that. So if you can avoid not only the picture, even things like maybe your jewelry says something about you that, you know, there are people out there and they have something against certain groups. Ultimately, you may find out if you meet these people that, oh, this person's like that and I don't want to work for them anyway. But that's not necessarily the case. It's just that there's one more thing that you're kind of just being cautious. The basic thing is you always want to get out there and get that interview. And also what can be difficult is getting that interview and getting past the HR people. Maybe you won't even be working for this person who's looking at your picture. You're going to get past them and get to the other person, the director or whatever of the department. So you just want to be aware, even on your resume, do you want to say that I was president of this particular group, and it may say something personal about you. If it's something that's so important to you and you wouldn't want to be around anybody that that would feel that way, you're the only one that can make that decision. But there's always going to be people that have their bias or whatever, and you can work with them for years and never even know they feel that way, and you do fine with them. So just always practice a little bit of I want to say caution, but it's really just, as I say, just getting yourself in there and see if you make the decision. Don't let them make the decision if they want to meet you.
A less serious question that comes to our mind as applicants oftentimes is, what is the best way to carry a resume, and does it matter? Can you just carry it in your hand, or should you carry it in a briefcase, in a suitcase, and take it like that? And do employers look at that? Like, it comes to our mind sometimes, so I wanted to know from you guys, like, does it actually matter?
Can I follow up on what Patricia just mentioned? Because I like what she said too, and I think this is helpful to new graduates, that an interview is a two-way interview. You're assessing the person asking you questions as well, and if they say something that makes you uncomfortable, that's illegal, that violates Department of Labor law, then that should be a red flag to you. So I liked what you said, and I think that's helpful and a good mindset for people to go into. In terms of bringing their resume in, I don't see many briefcases anymore. I don't see many people that go in with briefcases. So I would say I like kind of a nice leather short portfolio where they open it up and they have enough copies for the panel. In general, if it's a panel interview, they should all have copies, but I always think it's nice to bring backups, to have that. I would also recommend, in many cases I've shared with students, it's nice, any job experience, whether it's an internship or volunteer work with a nonprofit, I encourage students to ask for a letter of recommendation towards the end of their service or their internship. Often they're surprised what supervisors say about them, and in an interview it gives the applicant an opportunity to compliment themselves, but indirectly. You can say, my former supervisor said I was the best intern they had in 2015, and here's a letter of recommendation from them. So if they're going to go to the trouble to carry the resume, I also recommend carrying backup information that supports them as an applicant. I don't know how you feel about briefcases, Patricia.
They're nice, but sometimes you don't get one until you graduate from grandpa or something. So, but you do want to have, even if it's just a nice folder, you want to have it in in the folder. Keep it nice and crisp. If you have it in your hand, by the time you're in there, you're with your sweaty palms and you're all nervous and you don't realize you've been rolling it up. So you should bring extras. And another thing I would add to the letter is always bring your references on a separate sheet with the same heading that you have on your resume. You don't want to attach that to a resume unless they specifically ask for it. That's something that's also personal and private until asked for. And if the interview's gone well, generally they're going to say, can you send us some references? And this way you say, you know, I happen to have them right here. And right away, wow. So you want to impress.
And from both of you, starting with Doug, I would like to hear in 1 or 2 sentences, can you each give me your advice for the graduating class of 2015?
Stay positive, quantify your work experience, give yourself credit for all of the work that you've done, even if it's so often I hear students, I'm going over them 1 or 2 sentences here, but often I hear students say, well, that's what I did while I was in college, and it might have been bartending, I did that, waiting tables. In jobs like that, you're developing great transferable people skills. So I would encourage students to stay positive, quantify their experience, and give themselves credit for all the skills that they have.
Patricia?
Also, it shows that they've been working their way to help support their schooling. So that says a lot about someone as well. The stay positive is very important because sometimes it can take a while. It's going to happen. You just can't give up. And don't just say one day, you know, this just isn't happening and give up. And also don't just throw up your arms and change what you were interested in. You might have to do something else for a while, but pick something that you're at least learning and taking something away with you while you're still trying or wanting to get into your area. You don't want to burst your own bubble that quickly because you work towards it for a reason and you've got to work towards experiencing it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here today on CSUN On Point. It was lovely having you guys here.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
No more pencils, no more books, no more teachers, dirty looks. School's out for summer.
What this place needed was better graduation rates. So we worked with schools like Henry Ford High, and now they're up 18%.
To help us do more good this year, go to unitedway.org because great things happen when we live united.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
Thank you for watching. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at CSUN On Point. Sunday mornings, you can watch us on LA 36 at 11:30. And you can listen on KCSN 88.5 FM at 5:30 in the morning. For all of us here at On Point, I am Nancy Moreira.